Welcome back. Good stuff. Today found a really great article on SVG, which we're going to take a look at. So we're going to do some SVG stuff. But then, first, foremost, I want to show you my LBR homepage, which is Long Bike Ride Homage. And this was a homework assignment for you. I give homework assignments, and I create the solution, and I give you the answer. It's all out there. And you could just copy it and be like, dude, I did it just like you. It's perfect. All right, there's your 100%. So really, it's kind of about what you want to learn if you want to learn it. But here's my LBR, totally dialed in, pimped out, doped out. Awesome! You know, looks a lot like Long Bike Ride. You know, but there's some differences. And so I like to try to take something and then, in my opinion, and it's perspective, this isn't mathematics, it's more design, right? But mathematics, you know what? 2 plus 2 is 4. There's no like talking about that. But here you could say which one's better and become somewhat of a perspective. So, you know, for me, this is not good, right? Like, you know, I lost my footer, my call to action button, right? Whatever that be nice takes me to. You know, so there's some ways in which different sizes of screens, it doesn't look so great. Like that one. What the hell is that image? Just a big piece of sky and some cloud, a little pollution. What is that? Right? And then, you know, we have different sizes here. That's a different size, and that's a larger size. And so that's the kind of stuff where it's like, okay, can we take it and make it better? And so I am really loving HTML height 100%. I love that because that allows you to do the above the fold. So now no matter what size my screen resolution, I always have the same content above the fold, right? Always, right? Like my page ends after start now, no matter what size height the screen is on. And that's with HTML rule set. The selector is HTML, and then the declaration is height 100%. Cool. It's really cool. Really like that. So you can see I'm using Flexbox up in the nav bar up here. So nice big touch targets. Over here, we don't have those big touch targets. Well, we do, but you know, there's nothing to signify to me that I've highlighted that whole area. So that's kind of cool. They did the big touch targets. And so you can see the flex grow on there for the nav. For these things, they're growing as they grow. And then there. And then there. And different pictures. Just a random picture I found. And then the below the fold content. Oops, I'm moving my whole browser. Pictures, Flexbox, articles, footer. And then as you change this, mobile. And then also building it in such a way that makes sense. So doing my media queries here, starting with mobile first. And so max width, 500. Pixels means 500 and less. Everything 500 and less, that CSS is going to be applied. And then anything at 501 over gets this next one right here, and anything at 900 over gets that one. So these two build on each other, right? So if I'm at 900, I have these two, but I don't have the 500 under, and I have my main CSS. So main CSS always being applied when it's 500 and less, when it's 500 to 899, and both of these when it's right, both of those when it's 500 900 plus. Okay. And then using semantic content. So the way I built that, I have a container above the fold, ATF. So that's just a div, it's a container. I'm like, do you guys ever get like ghost ringing in your head of your cell phone? You're like, is that my cell phone ringing? No, it's just like I'm making that sound up in my head. I'm like, is that my cell phone? That happens to you too? That's weird. Like until I hear my phone ringing, like over there quietly. Like, does somebody have my same ring? Nobody else is hearing that? It just passed. No, there it is again. It's a weird. Yeah, auditory hallucination. So I have a div ID ATF, and if we look at the CSS on that, HTML body and ATF height 100%. Okay? And ATF display flex direction column. So it took everything inside this container. The HTML, the body, and that container are all height 100%. Fill up the browser window. 100%, the viewport. Fill that up. And then I put this flex container column. So each of these things will be a column. I have my header. I have this hero image. And then I have main. And so when we look at that, I have my header, I have my hero image, this is known as a hero image, and then we have main. And so this is the main content on my page. It's my call to action, right? When I think about telling search engines, what is this page about? Live your greatest adventure, start now, right? So even like thinking, how do I structure my page to convey what's most important? H1, live your greatest adventure. H2, start now. Like that's the outline, you know? And so using semantic tags, header, main, using a section, articles need to stand on their own and be something that you could syndicate, so you could take it out, put it somewhere else, and it makes sense on its own, right? So I didn't use an article, it's a section, a little section for the tag. And I use call to action as the ID, CTA, and nav desktop up there as ND. So when I'm on mobile, originally, right, ND is going to be display none. Display none for ND, for all this right here. Right, because on mobile, all I want to show is the endless journey. Does that make sense? So that'll be display none right out of the bat. So when I look at my CSS, if I look for class ND, display none. And I've really commented this code here so that you could go through it, because like this is a really important example for you to spend an hour with. And just go through and be like, okay, well, what happens when we're on mobile and that's not display none? Well, that's stupid. Right? You can see right there. Good thing that that was display none. And you should go through and turn each of those little lines on and off and see what they're doing. Right? Because there is not a one of those things I did not reflect upon and test and make sure it absolutely is needed. That's maybe not true. I maybe overlooked something. But I spent a lot of time working this example trying to get it perfect. This is good code. To me, as good as I know how to build, which is way better than I was building a year ago, and which a year from now I might be like, God, I can't believe I did it like that. So I was looking at the code I wrote a year ago, and I was like, God, I can't believe I did it like that. All right? So that's the entire above the fold thing. And then I have below the fold, I have a bunch of images. So BTF images below the fold. Hey, and I put those in a section because they're not standalone. And then I have a section for articles. And I actually have articles. Right? Like, okay, these could stand on their own somewhere. You know, and so the article has a heading. And then some content and a link. And so that's that one. And then I have my footer. So I have my mobile navigation, which is this one. We already saw that, right? And then I have the footer down there at the bottom. So it's called the footer. It's the correct semantic HTML to use on that. The footer. So we go from here to here, and that footer goes to display none. Right? The nav down by the footer goes to display none when we hit 500. And this one up here goes to display something. I'm thinking Flexbox, flex direction row. So when we look at the 500 less, all we're doing for 500 less is we're pulling in an image for 500 less. For 500 plus, right, we have nav mobile. NM is nav mobile, my little comment up there. Display none, get rid of that nav mobile. And then we need ND. And ND becomes nav desktop becomes display flex. Okay? So nav desktop is already in a container, so it's a flex item. It's in a flex container. And the flex container right here is column, right, at 500. And that container is going to be ATF, and now we have A and that one. So ATF right here. .501 NM hero image header. Okay, it's the header that's the container there. Header, and then each of those guys need to be, each of those guys, that container needs to be flex direction column. So here's the header, and display flex direction column, justify content, line item, center, right? So that header, 501, right here, that header, each of its immediate direct children, the anchor and the UL, become flex items arranged in a column, right? And so I get, that's one, that's another. And never forget this important design technique. Put a border around everything. And look, what's it doing? So you can see there, right? Like I've got that one, and then I have this one. That's my anchor. That should almost be like an H thing, probably, because that's like content I want indexed as important part of the outline. I should probably put an H around that endless journey deal. Like maybe that's an H1 also. If I put an H1 in there, I got to rethink my CSS because everything that I've targeted with ID logo might be applying to an anchor also. I'm not going to do it right now. So nav desktop with 100%, flex grow, display flex, and so it's flex direction is row by default, and no wrap, justify content, space around, align items, center. So that helps it, you know, the space around is what allows it to grow and shrink, and then just some font formatting. And then right there. So to go from this to this, what do I have to change about my header? What's going to change to go from that to that? So I want you to think of the answer. You got a minute. Think of the answer. What's the main setting I changed to get it to go from this to that? And in 1 minute, you're going to share that with your neighbor, what you came up with. So I'm just going to do this so you can kind of reflect on it. Go from that to that. What changes?
I see the HTML.
There's the HTML. You got 10 seconds. All right, so now share with your neighbor. So I'm thinking that this was flex, the header is a flex container, and flex directions column here, which means that that's on top, that's on bottom. We already saw that. So to go to here, flex direction needs to be row, which means, okay, these two, the anchor and the UL, are the children, the direct descendants. They will now be aligned in a row. And I'm going to do justify content flex end. Right? Justify content operates on the primary axis, and the primary axis is a row. It's horizontal. So it's going to put the anchor at one end, the UL at the other end. Right? And I'm going to give this a little bit of padding over on the left, or maybe margin. Just bump it off the left wall. Right? The endless journey deal. Otherwise, that'd be right against the left wall. And the UL, that's going to be a flex container also, and that's going to be flex direction row. And for justify content, it's going to be space around, right? Or maybe space between, one of those two, so that everything's always flexing. That's what space around, space between does. As things get bigger, okay, well, we'll evenly distribute the space around all these items, And I'm not quite sure, just off the top of my head, recollecting, like, why is it that took up only this amount, this took up that amount, right? This took up 20%, this took up 80%, or 30-70, whatever it is. How did we go about allocating space? You remember anything about that? Now that I just say it, does that jingle any bells? Remember, we were trying to get an entire row to add up to 100%. Remember, what was that about? When we tried to get a row to add up to 100%, we could say, hey, this takes up this much, that takes up that much. Yeah, so maybe on an anchor we just say width 30%, and on the UL we said width 70%. So that, hey, you're taking up this much, you're taking up that much. So that'd just be my thoughts on that bit right there. So let's go look at the code and what happens when we hit 900. So the header became, it's already a Flexbox, but I specified it again just for clarity. And flex direction became row, and it became space between. Okay, that's cool, space between. So space between the anchor and the UL, right? Which means space between versus space around. Space between slams them each against the outside walls and puts the space between. So CSS Flexbox. So there's a space between, right? Each thing goes to the outside wall and put the space between. Versus flex in was incorrect, what I said. That would have put everything over here on the end. So I said I misspoke. So space between. And then logo, that's the logo is, I think, the header, the anchor. All right, so that's logo. And logo is, that's 501, that's main. Logo is flexbase is 0. So that means resets the width 100% to nothing, because the width on that had already been 100%. So I had to do flex basis 0. Flex basis auto will automatically take on whatever the width of that item has been set to. Okay, and I had already set width to 100% earlier, because you recollect right here, we wanted this to be width 100% right there. Endless journey is 100%, right? And it's 100% right there, right? So I had already set width to 100%. I need to negate that. And so if you remember flex basis, right here, flex basis, the default size of an element before the remaining space is distributed can be a length or keyword. Auto keyword means look at my width or height property, right? And so, cool, I want you to be 0. So I just set it to flex basis 0. And then I do flex grow 1. And that's going to grow one time where this will grow 2 times. And the ND is better be my UL. There he is, right? ND. So that's going to grow twice as much as this. So this is like 33%. That's 66%, proportionally speaking. Isn't that cool? I love that flex basis. This was a good chunk of time right here. Watch what happens when you turn that one off. Nothing. I didn't expect that. Why did nothing happen?
Probably because maybe because the UL is still set in a way, maybe. So it still has some type of.
Well, it came over quite a bit. And I have this set, and I have this set. Let's take all these off. Well, that's not good. All right, let's put these on. See what happens. That's not good. If we put this one on, well, that's pretty good. Same thing. So we take that one off. That's not good. All right. So it's kind of interesting how they play together. But I was like, flex basis, your width ain't nothing. Your width ain't nothing. Now your width's going to be 1 to 2. Okay? With flex grow. Kind of cool. I love that below the fold thing. You could really see that when I have the, or above the fold thing. You could really see that when I have this on, right? It's always, I don't have any, you know, even at the smallest little, like maybe you're trying to see it on a watch, it still looks all right. I don't know what that'd look like on a watch. It'd probably be more in this journey adventure starting now. That looks pretty cool. That worked. How that turned out. Okay, so that was my take on it. Anybody have questions?
Could you show the CSS for the pictures, for the images?
Yeah, for these images, for sure. So the HTML on the images was just class BTF images. You might change that to WTF images. I don't know. It depends upon whatever you're building. Below the fold images and a bunch of images inside a div. And I put them inside of a div for some reason. And when they weren't inside of a div, I think they got squirrely. We'll look at that in a second. So the CSS on that, and that would be in main. And I'm looking for BTF images. But before I show you that, what do you think I'm going to need to get those images to work like this?
On the section, ETF. It's definitely child, flex child. All right, if you hold in BTF, right, and then what is it? Lowercase div, and then set the flex, say flex grow.
I'm thinking BTF, great brainstorming. That's exactly where I started. It took me many hours to build this. I don't just sit down and magically, you know, be like, that's what we need here. Though I'm getting quicker at that, learning right along with you, which is awesome. So I'm not somebody who learned this 10 years ago and teaching you, you know, how you were supposed to do it 10 years ago. But BTF images, I'm thinking that needs to be a flex container, right? And what's my flex direction going to be? Row. And what's my flex wrap going to be? Wrap. And then anything that adds up to 100% will show up on one line. Everything that doesn't gets kicked to the next, right? And so that's the basic idea. That's what that like same kind of thing principle we learned from the Google design patterns for Flexbox. They were using that. So I'm just recollecting, like I'm just thinking out loud right now about it, and I don't actually know for certain if that's what I did. I think that's what I did. So below the fold, BTF images, BTF articles, display flex, flex direction row, flex wrap wrap, justify content space around, align items center. So the space around does this deal. Space around. They should have like a space out where it just like randomly sometimes put things in, other times it wouldn't. What happened? Oh, I spaced out. That'd be cool. That one's space around. So space around, and then BTF images div. I just put a little margin around the pictures. Otherwise, the pictures would be sometimes a little too close, right? Too close. So that's actually kind of cool, though. You know, that's an alright layout too, but with the margin, right? Adds in that margin, and then articles. That's all it. And I don't know why I put the divs in. Oops. Let's find out. We'll just copy these. And then I have no good reason for why I put those divs in. I think originally I had different sized images, and that was containing them in a different way.
I think because back when we were trying to center the image, that we found out that it doesn't respect margin or anything.
Yeah, the margin there. Or, I don't know, like a div's a block level versus anchor's inline, so maybe I think I recollect something about that. But so that can maybe come out. You know, there's ways, for me that's like, you know, one of the things I strive for is like completely sparse, only the essential code. And so I'd be like, why are those divs there? Let's get rid of them. Like I kind of want to take them out now. So let's do it together. That's not what I want. I just want the div. Oop, did I highlight more divs? No, I'm at the end. Concerned I highlighted more divs. Perfect. All right, so I no longer have that, but I do have this. So now let's see what happens. So it's fine now. Slightly different, right? I need a little margin around the top of those. So margin 5 pixels. That should be the top.
Where do you have an A after?
This is a multiple selector, so every anchor that's a child of something that has a BTF images class. So this has the BTF images class, so it finds every anchor that's a child of it.
Yeah, so where are the anchor tags?
Oh, they're image tags. Thank you. That's what we're looking for. That's why group coding is a good thing. Cool. We cleaned up the code. So I will commit this code now. I can do a git status, find out what's changed. And I can see here the LBR homage, some of the stuff I've changed. And then I was also working on the CSS stuff, and some of that's changed. So I'm going to do a git add -- all, so add everything. And it's saying, hey, some control carriage return line feeds will be replaced by line feeds, right? So carriage return line feed is like Windows, and line feed is like Unix, I think. I have like medium certainty. Oh, Jesus, wake up, Jesus. And so that's just like part of what GitHub does. Git status. I can see they're all green now, so that now I can do a git commit -m cleans up LBR example, adds SVG examples, and then git push. Cool. Git status. And by the way, I've totally become whoa, that didn't look right. Oh, okay. I'm like, what is wrong with the code? Start now is like all the way up by the header. Cool. That totally makes sense. Oh, I've become a victim to gamification. I'm like on 16 days of straight coding. It's like, I don't want it to stop. My current streak. I've gone 16 days coding every day. Look, they're all green boxes starting here. There's like no break. I've been coding. Cool. Makes me curious. Longest GitHub streak. That's funny. Are you guys hearing anything, or is that me again? You're hearing it this time? Do you hear the little creature saying, answer the phone, answer the phone, answer? You don't hear that one? Sorry, turn it off. All right, that was a lame ending of this video.